do tego rodzaju pracy, z której my teraz również korzystamy, była po prostu czymś niezwykłym, także już przebieramy nóżkami i czekamy na wykład Angeli. Natomiast zanim to nastąpi, mamy dla Państwa jeszcze kilka spraw organizacyjnych, także poprosimy o chwilkę cierpliwości, jeszcze tylko kilka minutek.
Powtórzymy to, co Państwo otrzymali wcześniej oczywiście w mailach od nas, ale na wszelki wypadek w tej chwili może będzie łatwiej. Na ekranie powinniście Państwo widzieć, jeżeli macie aktualną wersję Zoomu, ikonę na samym dole na pasku Interpretation z takim globem Ziemi. I na tej, jeżeli jesteście Państwo zainteresowani tłumaczeniem symultanicznym na język polski, to bardzo serdecznie poprosimy, żeby wybrać tam kanał Polish. Natomiast jeśli chodzi o pytania, to kiedy będzie czas na te pytania, prosimy, żeby zadawać je nie w oknie czatu, tylko w oknie Q&A.
Tak, i te pytania, z pytaniami mamy teraz taką również opcję, że te osoby, które chcą zadawać pytania dotyczące treści wykładu, dotyczące tego, o czym będzie Angela mówiła, umieszczane będą właśnie w tej sekcji Q&A i te osoby, które nie będą zadawać pytań, a będą zainteresowane odpowiedzią na te pytania, to bardzo prosimy o to, żeby w czasie przerwy, szczególnie tej drugiej przerwy, która jest dłuższa, żebyście Państwo głosowali na te pytania. Tam jest, przy każdym pytaniu pojawi się taka rączka, można na nią klikając głosować i Angela będzie odpowiadała na poszczególne pytania w kolejności takiej, na które będzie największe zainteresowanie, bo niestety jest duże prawdopodobieństwo, że nie zdąży odpowiedzieć na wszystkie Państwa pytania.
I skoro mowa o przerwach, podczas których będziecie Państwo głosować po to, żeby nie tracić ani krzty z tego, co Angela będzie mówiła w trakcie, kiedy będzie mówiła, przypomnę tylko, jak będzie wyglądała ta agenda dzisiejszego spotkania, troszeczkę zmieniona, czyli zaczniemy od około 50 minut prezentacji ze strony Angeli, potem 10 minut na oddech dla nas wszystkich, już wtedy możecie sobie zerknąć na pytania i zagłosować na te, które Was interesują. Kolejne 50 minut, czyli druga część prezentacji ze strony Angeli, troszkę dłuższa przerwa, około półgodzinna i właśnie serdecznie wtedy zachęcamy, żeby naprawdę wybrać i głosować na pytania, które Was interesują, a nie po prostu lajkować z uprzejmości, bo chcemy, żeby jak najbardziej byli Państwo zadowoleni z tego, że uzyskaliście odpowiedzi na najbardziej interesujące pytania i na sam koniec o 8:20 40 minut przeznaczamy na sesję Q&A, gdzie będziemy słuchać odpowiedzi Angeli na najciekawsze pytania. I tyle.
I zamieniamy się w słuch.
Oddajemy głos do Angeli. Angela, over to you. Angela, did you hear us? Did you hear?
I did. Sorry, I was waiting for whether there was anything else to be mentioned.
By the way, did you hear the translation well? If we can.
Yeah, very well.
Okay, fantastic. So over to you.
Oh, it's my turn now.
The stage is yours already.
Oh, okay.
Without disappearing. So good luck.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you very much.
First of all, what I'd like to do is to thank Kasia and Anna so much for offering me this opportunity to share my experiences with so many people, and obviously thank you also very much for coming and being open to listening to how I've learned. I'm going to start with the presentation is basically in addition to my talking, because I think it's nice to look at pictures of dogs as well. And then I have many videos that I would like to share with you. So I am hoping, excuse me, that you can now see a PowerPoint presentation. This is Basil, who was my first teaching dog. He was incredible, of course, but he taught me, or he started me on this road of learning with dogs. And initially, when it came to working in rescue, which is my passion, always has been, always will be, obviously I'm not going to go back into what I did as a child, hand rearing rabbits and squirrels and everything, we won't have time for that anyway. But when I was working as a vet nurse, very often people will bring their dogs in to be put to sleep, which was horrific. It's the reason I had to stop vet nursing. And this little girl, Tina, she started me on the path to rehoming. She was the first dog I ever homed, brought in after being hit by a car, severe injuries. My vet, who was amazing, operated on her and sorted her out. And the owners, when they realised what the vet bill was going to be, denied owning her. So I rehomed her, and she started me on the road to rehoming. I left the veterinary practice, like I say, because I just couldn't cope with people bringing their dogs in to be put to sleep, not just for medical problems, but for behavioural problems, which they could have been prevented. And I thought, no, I can't do this. So I then took a job in accounts, not that you need to know that. Anyway, obviously I had to earn money. And I thought, right, I can't work with animals. That's it. It's too much. It's too upsetting. And then for some reason, dogs found me. And then I thought, okay, fair enough. I'm going to do this on my own now. Excuse me. So I took in dogs for rehoming. And even when I thought, okay, that's it, another dog would always find me. So that's how my introduction to animal welfare and rescue and rehoming came from. Sorry. Bear with me a moment. After many years, well, actually, no, not that many years, but after a few years working and basically supporting my rescue work, in effect, life can be pretty hard on us a lot of the time. And I decided that I was going to do what I felt passionate about rather than having to earn money just to survive. So I went and I worked as a kennel assistant initially, and then it became all animals at a national charity where you could live in, you had your wages, no bills, just food. And I thought, oh yeah, this sounds cool. Really easy life. And 3 months later, I ended up managing the centre, which wasn't quite as I intended. And what I found was I had a particular feeling, although I adore all animals, to dogs that had problems. And this little man here, who I absolutely adored, had severe aggression issues with people. And yes, he wasn't the easiest dogs to rehome, but after working with him for a period of time, he found a lovely home. But I must admit, he's one I would have kept. And yes, that is me, but obviously I was very much younger. I think this was taken in about 1987, 88, something like that. At this shelter, there wasn't an animal we didn't take in. We had pigs, amazing little creatures. We took in dogs who had been bred for laboratory work. She was a beautiful dog. They all are, but it was so sad because some of the dogs that came from there they were about 7 months and they didn't even know what grass was. So I had lucky enough to have a variety of experience with a variety of animals. And even though they're different species, and even though sometimes, you have prey animals, you have predators, whatever, they are all little people in their own right. And in the heart of them, they are all the same. It's just their species that maybe they behave differently or they learn differently. But in the heart, they're all the same. She was an amazing person. I went back to see her and I've put her in the presentation. Those people that don't know cows, find your nearest sanctuary and go and meet them. They are incredible people. Obviously there were welfare cases. It is a very distressing photograph. I won't tell you the history because it is even more distressing. And obviously she came right. The reason I've got him here, he was my introduction to working with very aggressive dogs. He was the first, what I would call really aggressive dog that I worked with. He was said to be a 3-year-old German Shepherd that had growled at somebody. And then when he came in, we discovered he was a 7-year-old Newfoundland cross German Shepherd who had actually pinned people against a wall and quite badly attacked them. I ended up keeping him. He was fine, but I was worried that people wouldn't understand him. From working in the national charity, because it was a small charity when I first went there, and then it got taken over by a national charity who had, which I sort of respect, completely different policies. We couldn't take in any field animals unless they were pedigrees. We couldn't take in feral cats, no dogs with problems, no Rottweilers, no Dobermans. It was crazy. So they were working on a selective intake, and as far as I was concerned, well, where do the others go? And I just felt that the dogs that had special needs, not as in special needs, but the dogs that needed that extra help, those were the dogs that I was drawn to. And like I say, he was my first introduction to an aggressive dog, and it was like quite an introduction, you could say. So I left there to set up my own sanctuary. I took him with me. I think I brought 5 dogs from the centre because they couldn't handle them basically, and 2 of them were terminally ill, and I wasn't going to leave them there. So I took my last month's wages. I found a house to rent, and I found a field to rent, and I opened and created my own animal sanctuary. I actually called it Lakeview Animal Sanctuary and Rehabilitation Centre, which sounds like a mouthful, but because that's what we did, I gave sanctuary to those animals that couldn't be homed, and I never rehomed the field animals again. I worry too much about them. And I only took in dogs that were due to be euthanized because of their level of aggression. This could either be referral from vets, trainers, but most commonly other animal sanctuaries or shelters that would say, look, we're going to euthanize this dog, will you take him? I never knew what was going to turn up. So one particular day, I remember getting a phone call in the morning. We're going to have this dog euthanized at 2:00 this afternoon. Can you take him in? Well, obviously, yes. So I only took in dogs with high level aggression. And this is where I learned, if you can't read a dog with high level aggression, you get bitten. Working with dogs of high level aggression, you learn very quickly how to read and feel a dog. Obviously, the feeling is equally, if not more, as important as being able to read them, because you feel them as a person. You can read them as a dog. You know, there's various courses on body language, but anyway, whatever. But nothing can teach you to feel. If you don't feel the person, if you don't feel the heart of the dog, you won't get the same connection. And the level of aggression that I was working with, by the time you've read a growl or whatever, you're bitten. You needed to identify the very, very first signals of stress. I'm so lucky because they were my teachers. And I can honestly say, I haven't actually been bitten that many times. And when I have been bitten, I know I would have got bitten. So it's actually easier. Just a very brief example. When I was working at the other shelter, there was an unhandleable German Shepherd who had to wear a muzzle at all times when he first came in. And somebody called me because he got his claw caught in his muzzle. Obviously, I had to get it out. So I knew I was going to get bitten. He didn't bite that hard, really, actually. So like I say, it's a lot easier. But if you want to work with aggression, don't worry about reading the body language, the growl towards the end of the sequence. Identify the very, very first signal of stress. And these were my babies. They were all absolutely adorable little people. But they stayed with me forever. She lived till she was 16. used to rescue battery hens, and used to buy 70 each year. Bring them in. I had a huge like barn area that they used to stay in. This is Dave, who used to manage it. And obviously, after a period of time, the girls regained their feathers, they relaxed, and they had a really happy life. And then what we did is I'd keep maybe 10 of the girls from the previous year to help the girls that were coming in direct from the battery houses, which in some ways you could actually say they're sort of like teaching hens, which I think is really quite sweet. And Nadia was Nadia. Hold on a sec. Horses, it varied. It could be youngsters, it could be aggressive ones. I don't know. I only really took in animals that were either difficult to home or unhomeable, including elderly cats, but I didn't take in anything under the age of 12. And they had their own chalet and sofas and cooked fish, chicken. Oh, they were amazing. So I had about 10 in the shelter because obviously I was running everything on my own, so I couldn't have too many. And she's the Benny, bless her. She's the oldest cat that I took in, and she was 22 when she came in, and she walked straight in, and it was right. Yeah, I'll take this. This is great. Right, I'll have that chair. I'm going to eat my food there. Nobody argued with her. It was absolutely beautiful. So like I say, I used to take in the dogs that were really aggressive or difficult. This is Bobby. He came in to me when he was about 8 months old. He's deaf. And this is Lily. She was a lot more difficult. She was deaf, very aggressive with people, aggressive with other dogs, but more so aggressive with people. So I had to prepare them, obviously rehoming. I couldn't keep all of the dogs, sadly. So what I find quite interesting, because I didn't go to a training club. I didn't even know they existed. But I think when you feel the dogs, everything seems to be, I don't know, it just comes naturally. So obviously, I mean, my own dogs, I don't train. I find training extremely boring. You know, activity's great, sit, stay down, blah, blah, blah. Oh, I want to fall asleep. They just are. We just live together as a family. I'm not saying there's not a place for training. It's just my personal choice. So I had to teach Lily little things that she's going to need in her new home. And you need to remember that when you're running a shelter, you're there to prepare them for their new life, for the start of their new beginning. So even though I don't train my own dogs, I needed to teach her things that she was going to need when she went to the new home. And the other thing is, by teaching her things so she knew if she walked next to me, she knew if she waited when I asked her, she knew that if she came to me, it didn't matter whether she sat, it just looked good to impress the people that might have wanted her. You're already giving her something positive to take home because she knows these things. So she knows if she sits, it's a positive experience. So that was one of the main reasons for teaching her. And also, obviously, she wouldn't have the freedom in your average domestic home that she had with me. Bless her. And this is her in her new home. One of many, bless her heart. So the guy obviously liked boxers, but it was just so beautiful to see that. But excuse me, sorry. Like I say, because I did everything, looked after the animals, did the fundraising, cleaning, the rehoming, I could only take in maybe 12 dogs a year, bearing in mind that the dogs that I did take in were very, very aggressive. So Lily, I think it was probably about 9 months before I felt she was ready for rehoming. And in the time I was doing it, which I did it for about 11 years, I homed, I can't remember how many dogs, but many dogs, but most of them I would say, were with me for a minimum of 6 months. Everything was done slowly, their pace, their choice. And like I say, this is how I've learned. So they've taught me. I haven't read books or studied in order to help them. They didn't have training problems. They had emotional problems. And that's what you need to work with. That's what I feel you should work with any animal. So because I could only home, so many dogs a year, and I would get shelters phone me and say, can you take this dog? He's going to be euthanized. Can you take that dog? And I couldn't do it. And I found it so upsetting because I knew there were dogs that were being destroyed that I couldn't help. So then I had a thought, and I thought, well, maybe it's better, rather than try and do everything on my own, if I share what the animals have taught me with other people, then there will be more animals that can be helped. So that's when I started working in shelters, and sharing my experiences in different shelters, in Italy, Belgium, Holland. This is in Japan. These are amazing people. And it was fantastic, because then I realized that there was a way around this, of only being able to help so many dogs. And I already had 12 of my own that I couldn't rehome, so I think I had enough there. The reason I've got him here, these people are incredible. The facilities they have are horrendous. They have a shelter on the edge of Tokyo. And this dog, Bobo, was severely people aggressive. He doesn't look very big, that's because he isn't. And in Japan, they've got a national no-kill policy in shelters. So even if you have a feral dog in and it's stressed, and it's a controversial subject, but sometimes you question whether it's a quality of life, that is fair, whether it would be kinder to, let them cross over. And the reason I've got him here, he was seriously aggressive. You couldn't touch him, you couldn't go in with him. He'd already put people in hospital, basically. So even though he was medium sized, he had a good bite on him. Strange thing to say that, isn't it? A good bite. Anyway, it was a very good bite. And these people were so incredible. So what basically happened was, I was invited to do a workshop over there. And I always say, when I go somewhere new, I want to go to the local shelter. So it was here, and without going on and on and on, that they were just so receptive. And I ended up going back there every 2 years. Obviously, I didn't take payment, but I could only afford to go back every couple of years. And I was presented with Bobo, and this is him after we worked using, it was clicker training, teaching him to accept a harness. I've got it all down as a case study. Initially having to use a pole from the other side of the fence on the harness, using targeting, until eventually it was one girl in particular who had a strong connection with him. He just wasn't safe to be in direct contact with. So she worked with him and took him to this level, and she could take him out for walks. I don't think she'd have taken him to a kindergarten, but I cannot sing their praises enough. But the important thing is, and the point that I really want to make, it took her 2 years to get to this stage. And I think that's something that people maybe sometimes don't recognize. I think in a shelter environment in particular, the length of time it can take, but 2 years. And, people think, yes, we can work on this dog, which is great. And, maybe in 6 months' time, you don't know how long it's going to take, and it's not for you to decide. Excuse me, it's for your dog to decide. The dog will tell you how they want help. The dog will show you what they need you to do, and the dog will set the pace. It's not for us to decide how to help a dog, because that's not helping. So let me go back one actually. After working in the shelters, so I was happy because I could share what I'd learnt with other people. It was fantastic. Shelter would phone me or email me. I'd go over, I'd assess their dogs, I'd put forward a program, la, la, la. Brilliant. So much better than working on my own. And then I see these dogs and I thought, oh my goodness, if I could have seen this dog in the home, I could have prevented it coming into rescue. But as most of you could probably understand, it meant that I'd have to work with people more. Nothing against people as such. No, nothing against them. And when you work in rescue, I think for anybody here, if you work in rescue, you'll totally understand what I mean. You develop a very cynical view of people. You see the worst side of people. And I know you have people that adopt dogs, but sometimes even that can be frustrating because the expectations they have. And when I'm working with a dog in rescue, I'm teaching them how to cope's probably the wrong word, with people living in a domestic environment. Obviously, they need to be happy. You match the personalities first, but I'm going to put it really, you teach the dog how to cope with people, really. That's not to say that people are horrible, but for instance, a lurcher, black lurcher in England is very difficult to rehome. So you teach them to do something really lovely, like look lovingly, turn their head, whatever. So you teach them, I don't know how to put this in with it not sounding awful, to play the person. So the dog's happy and the person's happy, but the person won't necessarily know exactly why the dog is the way they are. And that it's not deceitful, there's nothing wrong, it's nothing bad. It's just the dog needs to learn how to get the most out of the person for themselves. So I hope that makes sense. So anyway, then I thought, right, okay, I'll work with the public. I was quite anxious about doing that, having worked with animals more than people. So obviously you then learn to develop people skills. But in that time, I set up, this was in 1999, I set up my own business. Horrible to call it that, but that's what it's called. Yeah, organization, whatever it was anyway. I set up the dog partnership. And this is the basis of the dog partnership. It operates in the spirit of understanding and cooperation, thus allowing you to nurture a relationship based on mutual trust and respect. This is a true partnership. And that's what I wanted to promote. This is what I wanted to convey to people. Nothing to do with training, nothing to do with handling. I just wanted to convey to people and promote what the dogs want, and this is what the dogs want. It's not for us to decide, like I say. So coming out of rescue and working with people in a private home environment, initially I'm automatically being cynical about the person and thinking, oh, what have they done to this dog? Da, 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 da. And after doing that, this is when I've actually really seen people in a different light. If they're coming to you for help, they must have some level of care for their dog most of the time. And it's not their fault. If they can't resolve a problem they have with their dog, it's not their fault. 99% of the time, if the dog didn't have a problem, the owner wouldn't be having a problem with the dog. 99% of the time, the owner does not create the problem. The owner can bring out a problem, an underlying problem, maybe because the dog is genetically of a nervous nature. And maybe they can inadvertently reinforce it, but you can't blame them for it. You can't criticize them for it. They've come to you for help. And there's nothing I find, so I'm not going to go on about it. I think it's just so disrespectful to hear people say it's not the dogs, it's the owners. That is so bad. If their dog didn't have a problem, they wouldn't have a problem with their dog. why should they be expected to know how to handle a dog that has a problem? Many people, maybe they've had 4 German Shepherds in their life, they've got a 5th one and they have a problem with it. Why? Because the dog has a problem. Or maybe they've got a group of dogs, and maybe they've got 3 or 4 dogs in the house, whatever. They don't have a problem with their other dogs. They only have a problem with one because the dog's got a problem. And when these people come and seek help from a trainer, behaviourist, whatever we're supposed to call ourselves these days, it is disrespectful in any way to criticise them. I never, ever, ever criticise a client. I will, in a more diplomatic, I'm not very good at diplomacy, but I try. No, what I do is I make suggestions. I try and guide them in the way of handling, for want of a better way of putting it, that the dog wants, and never knock their confidence. There have been a couple of people actually that I've asked to move on, but we won't talk about them. So the thing to remember is, if your car broke down, you know your car's broken down and you've got 2 other reliable cars at home, but it's not your fault if you don't know how to fix it. If somebody has a dog and the dog has a problem, it's not their fault if they don't know how to fix it. And like I say, I'm not going to keep going on about this. I said that earlier. If they come to you, they're coming to you for support and guidance. That's what you should give them, not judge, not criticise, which I'm sure you guys don't do anyway. And I'm now going to shut up on that subject. So after setting up the dog partnership, I actually really, which surprised me, began to get more empathetic towards people. That sounds awful. It sounds like I wasn't empathetic before, but like I say, when you work in rescue, it's very difficult to be empathetic towards people, because I saw that, generally speaking, how much people loved their dogs, how distraught they were because their dogs weren't happy. And there were people that would contact me and say, my dog is aggressive, but there were people, what really upset them was not the aggression, it's the fact that their dog wasn't happy. And I can't say that I like everybody, but I look at my clients, and I very often are the last resort, because they've tried the training, and I say, look, just chill. Honestly, it's not your fault. I have a friend that works with me that distracts them, and the teaching dogs do the work, or I just let the dog completely free to do as they choose, and watch them and allow them to calm down, connect with the dog, and take the responsibility away from the owner. So all I need the owner to do is relax, not do this, do that, do the other, which obviously I haven't got time this evening to talk about exactly how I work, but it's based, the first thing is the dog and the owner needs to be more relaxed. With both the owner and the dog, it's not saying, oh, it's okay, just relax, just relax. It's not going to work. Create a situation, allow them. A lot of owners will talk, I do actually talk, because they're nervous. They'll keep fussing their dog, which you don't want them to do because they're nervous. Don't criticize them. Let them just, ventilate. You're supposed to be there as a dog professional to guide and support people as well as dogs. So like I say, he was my first teaching dog, and he's one of those dogs in a lifetime. He was with me when I ran Lakeview, the shelter, and I had no teachers, no human teachers, so it was, I don't know, it just was natural. Basil would, if I had a dog that was aggressive, it's not something you really think about, it's something you feel. You're with the dog in the moment, you work in the moment. And I began to watch how Basil was helping these dogs. And I was thinking, oh my God, this is incredible. And I watched him, and we were a team. I say we worked together. We didn't really work together. He worked, I watched and fed and cleaned. He taught me so much, the subtlety, the empathy, the simplicity, believe it or not, of the language of dogs. But I say it's simple because it's very honest. It's very clear from the dog's point of view. It's simple, but it is very complex. The same as I don't think I'll ever be able to learn Polish. I've even forgotten what I've just been taught. I would love to, but the same with Italian. Dogs don't have grammar, which I think makes a big difference. It's really quite simple, but obviously it can take years to learn their language. So I'm not saying, oh yes, just go out and read a dog. So anyway, I watched him working and it was like amazingly beautiful. We would work together, but only to the extent that it was almost like he was holding my hand and teaching me. It was like he was saying, come, let me share with you. Let me show you the dog world. Forget everything else. Let me show you the dog world. And I was so lucky for him to have been my teacher. So anyway, I watched him work, and then I saw, my goodness, how he affects the other dogs. But I had other dogs that weren't the same. They had no interest. So again, it's all this sort of realization. And then after a few years, somebody told me about training or behavior. There'd been courses and an organization set up, and I honestly didn't even know what it was. I didn't realize that the work that I was doing could be classed as a profession. That's because I live on the moors, I think, or I did. And so I thought, oh my goodness, there's qualifications, and I thought, oh, I don't know what it is or anything. But then I was told, yes, we work with aggressive dogs. So my first thought was, wow, I've got to go and see these people. And they trained. Or they are not necessarily, there were corrective trainers in those days, even if not corrective. They trained. How can you train a dog how to feel? And what they did with an emotional problem, which a social issue is they would mechanically teach the dogs to sit, to watch, to ignore, to do whatever. And in those days, it was before the clicker. They would treat them. Sometimes they were very horrible. And I could not understand, why are they suppressing this dog as a person? Why are they training this dog to mechanically sit still, maybe when they see another dog, when the dog is obviously majorly stressed? And I still don't get it. How on earth can people do it? It's so disrespectful to train a dog not to be aggressive. It's an emotion. You can't train an emotion. Only the dog has responsibility for their feelings. I do actually do a whole workshop on that, which means I can go on about it even more, which I won't this evening. When Basil got to probably about 10 years old, unintentionally, Stan arrived. He had 2 amputations on his tail before he was 7 weeks, which left him very cautious about people. And I wasn't keeping him, but I did. Simon he was hilarious, was in the kennels for biting people, which he did. So I kept him. Mida was in effect my treat to myself. She was my soulmate. I just cannot say how amazing and magical this girl was. Norse I never intended keeping, but you do, don't you? So, like I say, Basil was going into retirement. I'd actually stopped my full-time rescue because I wanted to help, and share what I'd learned with more people. And this was my foundation team, to the extent that I was actually going to stop training when I lost her, because she was one of the last dogs I left, because I thought the team's gone. But now I have 3 dogs and the rest is history. We were a team, and hopefully there will come a point that I can actually share with you the world of the teaching dogs, because it's just beyond words. It's just amazing. And we worked together. Sometimes Mida worked with me, sometimes Stan worked with me, sometimes Stan and Mida and I worked together, sometimes we all worked together, but we were a team. And the relationship you have with a teaching dog is second to none. But a teaching dog is not just a dog that can talk to other dogs, but I will explain a little bit more about that later. I got this here because it's so beautiful. Rita is disabled, as you can tell. She's one of the strongest dogs I think I've ever known. She's in Italy, and she will adapt herself to however the dog is. She can either be very strong with a dog that's a bit cheeky. She's so beautiful with puppies. I have something I'd like to show you later. Teaching dogs teach from the heart. Doesn't matter whether she's disabled. Other dogs will feel her, and that's the way they work. Communication classes. I've got some film to show you of this. I set up communication classes. Oh my goodness, 25-ish years ago. Makes me feel really old. This is a more recent one, hence the quality of the photograph. And I'd like to go through that with you as well. And that's my, she is a teaching dog. She's an amazing teaching dog, but she is a beautiful little diva who sometimes will look out of the car and say, yeah, you're having a laugh, aren't you? She's amazing, bless her heart. So I'm going to stop sharing on here. I'm going to turn my video off now because the videos, well, all of the videos that I'm going to show you, it's essential that you don't take your eyes off the dogs. Even a glance away, you can miss what they're saying. So I'm going to turn my video off now. That's my girl, bless her heart. Hang on, let me find. Right, I'm not very good on the technical stuff. Hide others, there we go. Can you see my screen, a horse in the background, and a VLC playlist?
We see the playlist. We don't see the horse in the background.
Oh, good. Oh, well, that's good. He's very beautiful, but thank you. We're not doing horses today. I just thought I'd better check. Right. What I'm going to do with this video, what I want to do with the videos is to let you watch through them completely, and then I'll talk through them after. This video, I might move it on at one point because the video is about 4 minutes long, and to explain what I'd like to explain here, you won't need to see all of it. This is an example of how the dog partnership works. This is the way that I feel is the respectful and considerate way to interact with dogs. He has, he's bitten several times. He's in a shelter. He initially has a long line on because I prefer not to get attacked just in case. But he's home now, so it's all good. So I'm going to play it through for you first. I will just say the only reason I'm giving him food here is to let him know that I have food. But now I'm not actually giving it to him. I'll explain through this when we look through it again. He's confused because I'm not giving it to him. I'm just going to run it forward a bit. Hold on. Because that was a demonstration of how we can work with him, which we don't have time to go through. So this was about, I don't know, 7 minutes later. It was more than 5, but less than 10. And the only reason I haven't got shoes on is I don't like shoes. It's nothing to do with anything else. I mean, it is better because you're more grounded, of course, but it's simply, you don't have to not wear shoes. I just don't like them. This was a magical moment for me, one I'll never forget. You'll see in a moment. Bear in mind, the reason I'm talking and waving my arms all over the place is it's at a workshop, so I'm having to talk through with people what I'm doing or not doing even. Beautiful. Right, going back to the beginning. This dog, like I say, had was aggressive with people. He put in a hard bite for his size, obviously not as bad as if he was a Newfoundland, but he bit hard enough not to be rehomable in that moment. And what the people had done with the best will in the world, he was worried about people. We've got a good indication of that later in the video. They'd actually taught him to go towards people for food. They've had people offer him food, and they felt that he was improving, because before he wouldn't go near people, and now with strangers offering him food, he was going up to them. And what you actually do often is you give them the confidence to bite, because they lose their fear of the body, they lose their fear of the person, but they don't trust them. So you end up with a dog that isn't fearful of people, but doesn't trust them, and that is a very dangerous thing. Well, obviously, this isn't an aggression workshop. We can't go talking through how you'd work with a dog like him. So, but the reason that this video, or the reason behind showing this, is he's used to strangers giving him food, and he gets a little bit anxious. He doesn't understand why I'm not feeding him, but you're a stranger, you've got food on you. Why aren't you feeding me? And also bear in mind, I wouldn't be doing all of this if I was working with him on my own. Well, I wouldn't use food anyway, but I was trying to share in a workshop. So, and what I want you to notice in a moment, please, Scooby, sometime before Christmas. Thank you very much. Right, remember, he's got a problem trusting people. This isn't going to make any difference at all whatsoever. Food can inhibit communication. I always use it as a teaching aid, but don't use it to get a dog's trust, because you'll end up with more of it depends. Feral dogs obviously are different, or not ferals, semi-ferals. Generally speaking, the dog will view you as, yeah, positive association for sure, because you're feeding them. They don't sit there and think, oh yeah, I quite fancy a bit of that chicken in a minute. Yeah, that sounds a really nice idea. It's not like with us when somebody says, would you like an ice cream? It's food. They are driven instinctively to focus on that food. It's a survival instinct. Is it a reward? Yes. Is it reward as far as brain chemistry goes? Of course. But it's a survival instinct. It's an instinctive reward. It is not a social reward. And if you want to connect with a dog, if you want to build a relationship with a dog, don't use food. I'm not saying don't use food for teaching. I mean, I'm saying don't use food. Obviously, it's up to you. I personally wouldn't be using food. I want to connect with that dog as a person, not as a food dispenser. What I want you to see here, sorry that you can't see me and I'm talking, but I'd be on and off, on and off. Just look at the fact that there is no connection or communication with me at all whatsoever. But more importantly, look at the tension in his body. And that's what a lot of dogs can be like when you're feeding them, when you're giving them treats. It's all like, oh my God, it's a treat, particularly if you happen to be a Labrador. Just notice in particular the tension in his back end. See that tension? And we can see this. You know, somebody, will your dog work for me? Yeah, if you've got food. This does not build trust. So anyway, we did that bit. And then I put food away. I think we actually might. We take a little, anyway, I thought we'd take a break, whatever. You'll see the reason behind his problem, because he didn't show before, and when he bit, serious, obvious signs of fear. But I moved the water bowl from here to the shade because I'm in Italy, and it was purely to get it out of the sun. And you'll see a point where he ducks as I pick up the water bowl. It tells you. You have to be careful working with a dog like this. I'm not suggesting that you do it with an aggressive dog. You could see his face there. Obviously, you need to stay safe. I'd like you to watch his thought process and his emotional changes. So what I'm going to do, which sounds completely and utterly crazy, bear in mind the dog's communication system is designed above all else to diffuse tension, to maintain harmony. The dog does not want anyone to feel stressed. Instinctively, everybody's got to get on. Doesn't necessarily mean up and down, laughing and joking. But everybody, they have to have harmony because they're a team. And if they don't stay as a team, they can't hunt. Therefore, obviously, they don't live. So what I do with him, I let him take control of the whole situation, but I take it to the nth degree, because occasionally I may offer him my hands, but what I actually, in effect, saying to Scooby is, because Scooby's sort of like, I don't trust you. And I'm saying, yeah, but I'm not comfortable with you. So I'm telling him I need his help. So rather than say, oh, it's okay, I'm fine, I'm not going to hurt you, he'll say, yeah, right, I don't believe you. So when he comes towards me, because he thinks, oh, shall I approach her? I try to feel or make myself appear more awkward. I want to bring out his natural instinctive communication, which is to maintain harmony, to diffuse tension. So I'm actually saying to him, in effect, you think you're a bit worried? Well, I am, very. So I let him work me. Sounds crazy, doesn't it? But probably not, actually, not to you guys. So, like I say, the talking, any of the arm movement is purely because I'm running a workshop. And it might appear like, I mean, yes, he is looking for food at times. He's thinking, he's not sure what's going on. He doesn't feel under threat as such. He knows he can bite and stop anything he wants with people. He knows that. So he's not what I would call is really fearful in the situation. So I move away. He's approached me, so I move away. He likes people. Did you see that? I simply turned my hand and the way he tipped his head. Watch. I think it's the next time. Yeah, it is. Yeah? Bless him. He, like I say, he wants a relationship with people. Not all dogs do, but he does. He wants to connect with me. And this is his handler. So he's coming over and I'm picking the grass thinking, oh my God. Well, I'm not actually, but I'm pretending. Oh, it's beautiful. So he's doing what comes naturally. Oh my goodness me, there is a person, dog, whichever, is still a person who I need to diffuse the tension. Okay, you give him control. You give him control. He will feel more confident. Then you can communicate. You can't communicate until you've got that where you are actually saying to him, you're giving him complete and utter freedom of choice. When I say communicate, I mean connect more than anything else. Just one little thing I want to point out with this, and it was a beautiful moment. And yes, a few of us were in tears because we're so professional. But working in this manner, it is really, really emotive. And we're all human. Well, some of us. What he's doing here, it's not affection. It's better than affection. It's acceptance. He's marking me. And that is beautiful because he's actually accepted me. He's accepted me into his world. And with affection, it's nice that a dog shows affection. Sometimes I find it upsetting because it can be subservience. Sometimes dogs do it because they know people want us to, but to be marked by a dog, I think is a fantastic experience. They've not only accepted me, they want me to come into their world. You won't get a better compliment than that. So next time a dog pees on you, could be marking you for a good reason, not just to take total control for different reasons. So what's sweetie? So the comparison in the body language, we got no connection at all. Tension in the body. It's borderline stress, isn't it? Fluid movement, freedom of choice, and allow him to be who he is. Let the dog tell you how they want to be helped. Oh, hang on. I could talk forever, as you could probably gather. I mean, I've seen these videos so many times and I still get so passionate when I see these dogs. Please tell me if I need...
Angela, before you get so passionate about these dogs, maybe we will have a 10 minutes break now and we'll continue afterwards. Is it possible?
Yeah, can we run on till about midnight, please?
Yeah, lovely.
Okay, I'm joking.
Let's have a break now and we'll start with